Too. So I was lucky enough to student teach southwest side of Chicago at Lincoln Way East. And when I was student teaching there, I met a student who had recently graduated, and he came back to talk to the students in his digital art teacher's class. And his name was Chuck Anderson. His website is nopattern.com. And Chuck Anderson's very interesting. He started off by making a record cover for Lupe Fiasco. This was like right out of high school, and then he ended up getting job after job. So this is his very like specific style that he came up with on Photoshop. He self-taught himself while he was in high school, and after this it just like blew up. He just kept doing more work. So while he was visiting my students, he specifically taught them how to do this different style with these streaks and rainbows and stars. And then he even talked about how he was brought in to do the Microsoft Windows. So he's worked for Nike and Mountain Dew and all this like ESPN, like tons of different work. But you can see that his work is evolving now. But I wanted to show you some of his his later techniques that I was so lucky to learn when I was student teaching. Okay, so the first thing I want to teach you is stars. Okay, so with stars, I'm gonna make a new layer and I'm gonna call it stars. Okay, and he very specifically said that with stars, it's very important that you continue to change the size of stars, because if you think about it, we look in the sky and no star is like the same size. So when you're making them, you want them to be different sizes. Okay, so we need to pick a brush, and we want to make sure that the brush is on 0 hardness. And I'm going to just start off with 19. That's fine. And I have to think about like, well, where do I want it? Do I want like fairy magic, that kind of thing, maybe trailing off of the hummingbird or the butterfly kind of thing, or around her head or something like that. So I'll put some around maybe the tail of the bird. So again, make sure you're on the new layer, because we want it to be non-destructive editing. We can delete it if it doesn't turn out well. So I'm going to select just one little click, and I'm going to go in. And I forgot that I wanted to make the star white, so I'm going to Command C. All right, let's try it again. Make sure you have a white, and you're on paintbrush, and I'm just going to click. Okay, and then I'm going to make like a bigger one, and then I'm going to make, I'm changing it with the left curly bracket to change it, and then maybe a different size. So continue to change like the different sizes, and then make sure you're like adding, and they should be like just an uneven distribution. Okay, so you can keep going with this, but at this time I'm going to go to FX and outer glow, and I already have this like green. So now you can start seeing, you can play around with what kind of like blending mode that you want, what kind of size you want on the stars, the spread of the stars, the color of the star, like the star outline, to have some contrast. I like the green. But yeah, I would bring down maybe the size a little bit. And again, play around with, how does it, play around with the layer beneath it. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it on multiply. Okay, so now I got some stars, and I'm still on the star layer, so I can continue. I guess I can go back and just show you that, I can continue to make stars on this layer, okay? And as I'm going, if I don't like them, remember this is non-destructive editing, so if I have the stars layer selected and I go to the eraser tool and be like, that one's too big, and that one looks like acne, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like, so you can go back and add and delete and move them, okay? They're on their own layers. Okay, the next technique that I'm gonna show you is how he makes these like flares of color, going back to this, like how did he make the pink come down and look like streaks? We saw that very specifically in his Lupe Fiasco. So we see all these stars and these streaks in the work. Okay, so back in Photoshop, I'm gonna make a new layer, and I'm gonna call it streaks. All right, and he said that I'm going to make the streaks kind of going through this like watercolor volleyball. So I need to take the selection tool. I'm going to take the polygonal lasso tool and I'm going to click outside the canvas and I'm just going to make a huge triangle. All right, and so this is all selected and I'm on the streaks layer. And this time I want the brush. I want to make sure that the brush is 0 hardness, but I want it to be like huge. I want it to be like, that's pretty good. 4,280 pixels, okay? And this time I do want a vivid color. Now notice, here's my circle, and if you don't see it, I think it's like, yeah, the caps locks. If you don't see your circle, you have to hit the caps locks. But I only want, like, so the selection is in the middle. I only want, like, the very edge of my huge brush to be, like, in here. So I'm gonna click once, all right, and you see how it made that little green? And then I'm probably gonna change it. He kind of makes this, like, a little bit more rainbow, so I'm gonna do a little pink. And I'm gonna do a little bit blue, maybe on the other side. Okay, so now I have this streak. All right, so now I'm gonna deselect Command D, and I have this streak. It's on its own layer, and I can transform this. So maybe it's like too big too. Maybe you wanna make it a little bit smaller, and we can put that here. And at this point, you can, make a new layer for another streak. You can duplicate this, Command J, and reuse it, kind of move it around. You could add a adjustment layer to change the colors. You could make another one. So that's how he makes his streaks and the stars. Okay, we're gonna make one more new layer, and this one we're gonna call Rainbow, and it's gonna be kind of like the same technique. Woo! Okay. So this is the idea. I want like a rainbow maybe back here or something like that. I'm going to create a selection with the ellipse. I'm holding down Shift to get a perfect circle. All right, and again, I'm gonna go to the paintbrush and I want it to be really, really big. And I'm going to pick the pink, like a pink. And again, I just want to do a little bit of the edges. Okay, and deselect or Command D. Woohoo! All right, and then, so this is pink, and then I would duplicate this, Command J, and I would just change the color balance. So I would just go to color balance, and I want this to be more of like an orangey color, and make sure that it is connected. You can either hit this to link them or the alt option between these two so that it's only interacting with this one up here. Yeah, so, man, okay. I want it to be more and I want it to be more yellow, so I'm trying to get, more of the orangey in here than the pink. So we can do that. I'm gonna actually try a hue saturation. Let's try hue saturation to see if that one's better. I don't know, I don't remember which one I used. Okay, let's click it here. And orange, there we go. And so you can find your orange color. Okay, and then you can take these two and duplicate. So now I got another one, but this one I'm gonna select and I'm gonna make it yellow. Make sure you move it so you can see. Okay, so this is how we can, make this. And then I would put this like, beneath all these other layers. So you can see how you can topple them on top of each other. And I could erase a little bit more. It's looking a little bit, but I could also move these. Oh, it's underneath the texture, so I might move that aside for a second and kind of move these together. Cool beans? All right, that's Chuck Anderson. You could also probably bring down, I'd probably be more picky and do like less opacity as well, so it's really not as bright. Yeah, that's looking better too. All right, and I'm gonna put the texture back. Cool beans.